Who is going to win the EFL Championship playoffs for the 24-25 season? Today we're going to have a preview and see if we can work it out. Hello guys and welcome back to yet another video. As I say, we are focusing on the Championship playoffs. First of all, before we get into this video, I urge you guys to comment with your thoughts. One team who's going to win the Championship playoffs. Let me know down in the comments which team you think is going to win it. And try and use your head and not your heart. Don't just go, well, I think Bristol City because I support Bristol City. I mean, if you think Bristol City are going to win it, there's nothing wrong with that. But try and use your head and not your heart. Comment down below who is going to win the Championship playoffs. And before we get into this preview, let's go for 2,000 likes. It takes 2 seconds. Hit the thumbs up button. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. We're so close. I think we're about 5 subscribers away from 98,000 right now. So be sure to subscribe. And I will be doing my predictions for the first legs with Sophie tomorrow. So make sure you see that video. And let's get into it. So this is how the top end of the Championship table finished. Let's just highlight the teams that are involved in the playoff race. You've got 4 teams here with very different stories on how they got here. Let's go through this then in numerical order then, and we start with 3rd place Sheffield United. So Sheffield United, of course, relegated from the Premier League last season. Terrible season last year, absolutely dreadful. Chris Wilder comes in towards the end of the season. Of course, a bit of a turbulent summer. Remember, they had a 2-point deduction. They had to make a lot of their signings last minute, and credit to them because they've been in the automatic promotion race for most of the season. It really was between Leeds, Burnley and Sheffield United almost all the way through. I mean, Sunderland, to be fair to them, were involved in the promotion race for about 2/3 of the season, but it was always going to be one of that top 3 would miss out, and that is Sheffield United, who finished in 3rd place. Of course, they had 2 points deducted. If you add those back on, 92 points they would have scored this season, which is 2 points per game exactly. Incredible. That is usually promotion. We saw Leeds United last year, of course, being the first team, I think, ever to get 90 points and not get promoted from the Championship. Sheffield United have gone and repeated that trick this season. Remember, Leeds didn't get promoted last season. Sheffield United have to be the favourites though. Of course, look at the points they've scored this season. This has got to be the biggest gap in terms of points between a 3rd place and 6th place finish in the Championship ever, because Sheffield United have equalled the 3rd place record for most points, and Bristol City have equalled the lowest points in 6th place position in the Championship. So 22 points separating Sheffield United and Bristol City. It does make Sheffield United the strong favourites coming into the playoffs, but that is not everything, as we will get into. As I say, Chris Wilder, he's taken Sheffield United up before. He's a club legend. He's a fan of Sheffield United. They've not done it through the playoffs with Chris Wilder before, and I'm sure the Sheffield United fans will be quick to comment down below on their rotten record in playoffs gone by. They have to be the favourites though. They're the only team that's finished in the playoffs here with parachute payments. Let's talk about Sunderland. Sunderland, an incredible performance from them this season. Not many people thought they'd be in a top 2 race at the start of the season. I think Gab Sutton had them to win the league, but they started the season so well. Of course, a new face with Reggie Labrie coming in, done so well, and they caught everyone by surprise. A very good attacking outfit, lots of young players there, lots of good quality there. They've just sort of faded away towards the end. Like I say, they haven't been able to match up to the other 3. Obviously, they are going up against parachute payment teams, and they have sort of fallen away. They've been in an awkward position for the last few weeks where they knew they were going to finish in the playoffs no matter what, which has seen their form really dry up. Now, I get that we're going to have some Sunderland fans saying, well, what does that matter? You know, we could go on and win the playoffs. And I will point out a very good example. Carlisle United in League 2 a couple of years ago, they went into the playoffs in dreadful form, and they went on to win the playoffs. So yes, it might be easy to sit here and say, yeah, Sunderland not in good form, they won't win the playoffs. Don't get too carried away with that narrative. It could be the case, but it might not be. Sunderland have been a good team this season. Can they dust themselves down for the playoffs, though, and get ready to go again? We will see. They take on Coventry, who they've not got a good record against. Obviously, Coventry's the team I've followed closest out of these teams this season. Obviously, I'm a Coventry fan. It's been a strange season, hasn't it? Obviously, I didn't expect Mark Robins to go. I've said that. If Mark Robins was replaced, did I expect us to make the top 6? No, but there you go. Fair play to Doug King, he got the appointment right, and credit to Lampard for getting us into the top 6. I do think we were grossly underperforming in the first half of the season, and some of that goes down to Robins, obviously no Vivash. I still think the players are partially to blame for that because they didn't pull their weight in the first half of the season, but with the addition of Matt Grimes and battling through quite a few injuries, we have just about managed to get in there. The home form has been crucial. I don't trust us as much away from home, but the main thing is those last minute goals. We've got in there by 3 points in the end, and a great win on the final day against Middlesbrough, which gives us all a lift going into the playoffs on a high there. And Bristol City, the first time in the playoffs for, I don't know, is it 2008 or 9? I think it's about 2007 or 8 actually, when they lost to Hull City. First time in the playoffs, of course, since they've come back to the Championship, which was now 10 years ago. I think they got promoted from League One. An incredible season. They've definitely capitalised on this low bar for the playoffs. Not to take anything away from them, but it is a low bar for the playoffs. But they've been really good in the second half of the season, and that is something you want, that momentum. And the home form could be crucial. Of course, they've got Sheffield United. We'll come on to the head-to-head record there in a second. But as I say, Bristol City, well-oiled machine. They've got goals in them. They've taken good points off some of the top teams this season. Let's see how they get on in the playoffs. They are the underdogs coming into this. They've not been in the playoffs, like I say, for the longest time. In terms of playoff records, Coventry City, of course, were last in the playoffs 2 years ago, losing in the final to Luton. We are making a habit of getting to Wembley, though. Of course, we've done that in the last 2 years, and maybe we'll make it 3 this season. Sunderland were also in the playoffs the last time that Coventry were. They lost in the semis to Luton. Before that, they did win the League One playoffs the season before against Wycombe in the final. And as for Sheffield United, I think their most recent venture into the playoffs was in 2022 when they lost in the semis narrowly on penalties to Forest. So they are the teams involved. Like I say, the managers, you've got Chris Wilder, who's done it before. He's been promoted from this level, not through the playoffs, but he's a very experienced head at this level. He's a Sheffield United fan, as I say. Reggie Labrie has caught people by surprise. Could he go on to win the playoffs? Frank Lampard has been in the playoffs before, of course, with Derby. Fell short at the final hurdle, a bit like Coventry have done recently as well. So I don't know if that will change this time, or will it be a similar narrative? And Bristol City, an incredible job from Liam Manning. I mean, of course, such tragic news for him at the start of the season. What a story it would be if they went on to get promoted now as well. Let's have a look at some of the key numbers then. So, here you go. This is just a grid with the teams that are in the playoffs and their record against each other. Sheffield United have won at home to Sunderland and Coventry and drawn at home to Bristol City. Sunderland also unbeaten at home in these fixtures, beating Sheffield United and drawing at home to Coventry and Bristol City. Coventry also unbeaten at home in these fixtures, drawing at home to Sheffield United, thumping Sunderland and beating Bristol City 1-0. And Bristol City, the only team to have lost a home game in these head-to-head games, losing at home to Sheffield United, but they did beat Sunderland and draw at home to Coventry at Ashton Gate. So they are the head-to-head records between these teams coming into this. If those results were to play out exactly the same, it would mean that Sheffield United get to the final, beating Bristol City, and Coventry would get to the final, beating Sunderland. And then, as for the head-to-head record between these two, Sheffield United would beat Coventry at Wembley. Like I say, take that with a pinch of salt, because some of those games were back in the first half of the season, and teams can be in better form now. So let's have a look at form as well. Let's factor in loads of things and have a look at another table here that I've constructed. First of all, you've got the table. Let's rank these teams. Sheffield United, of course, first, Sunderland second, Coventry third, Bristol City fourth, because that's the order they finished in the table. It might be worth adding a little asterisk there to say Sheffield United quite clear in terms of points of the other teams. As for the bookies, Sheffield United are the favourites to win the Championship playoffs, Sunderland second, Coventry third, Bristol City fourth. We have just had a look at the head-to-head record between these teams, where Sheffield United have come out with the most points between these head-to-head games, 11 points, Coventry 9 points, Bristol City 6 points, and Sunderland only 5 points. And the final thing we'll look at is form. I've taken the last 10 games of the form table and put it out here, where Bristol City have actually picked up the most points, 15 in the last 10. Sheffield United have picked up 14, Coventry 13, and Sunderland only 8. Now, like I say, take those numbers with a pinch of salt. Form might not matter, because Bristol City certainly had so much more to play for than Sunderland in the last month of the season, because they weren't in the playoffs. Sunderland were pretty much secured to finish in the playoffs no matter what happened. So take that with a pinch of salt, but I do think momentum is such a big thing coming into the playoffs. What is my honest thoughts? Because I need to give some kind of hunch, but I won't give away my big predictions, as I say. I'll save my first leg predictions for tomorrow. I think Sheffield United are such strong favourites. Now, people will say in the playoffs are a lottery. To an extent, yes, but that's not strictly true if you're just going to say it like that, because yes, there is a chance anyone could win it, but it's not an equal chance. It's not like we all have a 1 in 4 chance of winning it. The squads and the table this season tell us Sheffield United are the best team. Now, that's not me just trying to put all the pressure on them and be like, oh, it's a free hit for Coventry. That is just the facts. But anything can happen in one game. Of course, if Sheffield United go and get a red card in the first 10 minutes at Bristol City, then I start to think, okay, Bristol City might get through here. If Sunderland go and get an injury to their 2 best players in the first leg against Coventry, that'll really hinder them in the second leg, of course. These sort of things you just can't predict. A red card, an injury, anything can happen. Sheffield United, I just think, can Chris Wilder keep his cool? You know, if they lose that first leg, and say they lose it heavily, things are looking difficult here, because he's got a vested interest, of course, with him being a Sheffield United fan as well. It's just about, can he keep his cool? A lot of people have said, oh, look, we've seen a different side to Chris Wilder this season. Don't take away from the fact they've been very, very good, though. They are the favourites for a reason. Sunderland, you've got to factor in club size as well. Obviously, as I say, Coventry's record against Sunderland is really good. But are Sunderland due a win against Coventry? Maybe, but it doesn't guarantee they're going to get one, does it? But I don't know. I mean, I've been to the Stadium of Light a couple times. If Sunderland can really turn that into a cauldron, it can be really difficult for the Coventry players. But obviously, we're going to try and do the same for the first leg. We've got to try and make it very intimidating for the Sunderland players. Coventry's record in the playoffs is quite interesting. We've been in the playoffs before twice, in League Two and the Championship. We've always played the home game first, where we've drawn it, and won the away game second. Bristol City and Sheffield United, as I say, an interesting fixture, because Bristol City are better at home than they are away, but they did lose at home to Sheffield United and actually drew away. But as I say, the home game was in the first half of the season. Do we read into that too much? I don't know. My final hunch is Sheffield United are the favourites for me. I think there is a good argument any of these teams could win it. Let's see what goes down in those first legs. But Sheffield United have to be the favourites. Look at the gap in terms of points between Sheffield United and the other teams. Even between 3rd and 4th, a 14-point gap is crazy. And I do wonder, my final concern is I do wonder if we're going to see this quite often now in the Championship. You know, we've spoken about how sort of distorted the landscape is, the football landscape is now because of money. You see the 3 teams getting promoted, all cut adrift this season, the same way they were last season in the Premier League. Well, we're now seeing 3 or 4 teams consistently get 90 points in the Championship, and a lot of that is down to parachute payment power. But as I said, who knows? The beauty of the playoffs is 6th place can get promoted. It'd be so boring if we just had 3 up, 3 down and no playoffs. This is the beauty of the playoffs. I will be covering all of these games in some way, shape or form on the channel, so make sure to get involved. Like, subscribe, and like I say, comment down below your thoughts. Who is going to win the playoffs? My hunch is Sheffield United. Of course, I want Coventry. I think there is a good chance it could be Coventry. I really do. I think we've got a bit more experience about us this season than we did 2 seasons ago. But my genuine answer to who is the most likely to go up, if someone came up to me with a gun to my head, I am tipping the Blades. But let's see. Let's see. Now that Sheffield United are the favourites, I've put the pressure on them. Let's see. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I am really curious to get your thoughts down in the comments. We've got lots of coverage coming for the playoffs. I will see you there all very soon. Take care. Peace out.